Cool. So I am here on Zoom talking with Harriet Prebble from the upcoming show. It's the upcoming Dungeons and Dragons based show at Circa Theatre in Wellington. And so before we go any further, Harriet, maybe you could tell us a little bit about who you are and what this show is all about.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Harriet Prebble. I'm a Wellington-based actor, and now I guess a Wellington-based actor and producer, because this is the first time I've produced a show. So Dungeoning and Dragoning is what it says on the tin. We are. It's a Dungeons and Dragons show. It's not really a kind of comedy show or anything like that. We are literally getting down to the nitty-gritty of playing Dungeons and Dragons. So yeah, it's D&D 5e. And it's with a group of actors, professional actors, who I've been playing with in a kind of social setting, and we sort of got together and doing a show.
Wow! So you come out of the theatre scene in Wellington. Are you from Wellington, or where do you come from?
I'm actually from Christchurch originally.
Right. Yep.
Well, I was born in Wellington and then moved down to Christchurch. So I guess I consider myself kind of a Christchurch girl. And then I moved back to Wellington about 5 or 6 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. And did you kind of come in as a theatre kid, going on stage at school, that kind of thing? And because I know you have been performing on stage for a while now.
I didn't consider myself a theatre kid, actually. I don't want to offend any of the theatre kids, but when I was at high school and uni, I was like, I'm not a theatre kid. You know, I'm serious. I'm an intellectual, and I sit by myself and I read books. That's what I do. I don't, sing musicals and that kind of thing. But then I just realized that actually I am a theatre kid. See, it's even still hard for me to say, but I couldn't get away from that scene. So yeah. But essentially, I didn't go to drama school. I kind of pursued a different path. I went to university, and then I kind of started working in a career in publishing and that kind of thing, and always thought that theatre was going to be a little side hustle or a little fun thing. Mm-hmm. And now it's kind of taking over my life, much like D&D has started to do.
So what is your entry point into the game Dungeons and Dragons? Where did you first encounter it?
Critical Role, straight up Critical Role. I am a gamer. I like playing video games, and then I started just idly watching, videos of video game voice actors and that kind of thing. And then I started watching Critical Role, and I was only watching it because I thought, I like Ashley Johnson. She's cool. Laura Bailey, right? She's from Uncharted. Fun. And I just started watching it for the lols, really. And then, kind of 200 episodes later, you're like, whoa, what just happened? That was my entry point. And then I saw there was a Dungeons and Dragons day at a local cafe, and I thought I'd go along, and then I got hooked.
Nice. So did you have friends who were involved in the game, or did you did you find people to play with, or did you recruit friends and bring them in? How did that work?
Well, I saw a friend of mine, who's Alan Henry, who's actually in the show, had clicked attending on this event that was happening. And I messaged him and I was like, do you actually play Dungeons and Dragons? Is that actually a thing that you do? Fully expecting him to be like, no, because I just thought it was some weird secret thing that people don't actually do. And he was like, hell yes, I play Dungeons and Dragons. Hell yes, I am super keen. You should come along. You will love it. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to come along and just watch, see how you guys play. And he's like, that's not, no. He's like, you play D&D, that's what happens. And I'm grateful that he forced me to do it, because I was terrified, because I just wanted to come along and watch. But I've also adopted that now. When people say, hey, can I just come along and watch a game? It's like, no, come play. There's tons of rule books, but you don't have to read all of them. Just come and enjoy it,
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. I think one of the things that I have thought about a lot over the years with this game is how kind of difficult it is to get people to understand what you're doing if you're just describing it to them, or they've just heard a few things. There's kind of this little leap of logic that you need to make where the penny drops and you suddenly see, it's all just conversation. It's all just talking. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like you had that penny drop moment watching the Critical Role people, and did you feel you came away from that with a sense of, I would know how to do this, or what you're just describing with Alan was that you still feeling like there is some kind of secret key there that I haven't unlocked and I don't really know how to do it, or what was
No,
that?
I think it was within the first couple of episodes of Critical Role. I was like, oh, I can totally do this. They are literally just sitting around being a character. And as an actor, I was like, I can do that. I can be a character. I mean, all of the nitty gritty of the rules as well. I mean, that's the DM's job. That's your job, the police. I mean, they should know their spells and, they should have everything sorted. But in terms of knowing everything, I think it is strange. Although I feel like, just as you said, there's a leap in logic. But then I think there's actually a second one, because people have that first one where they go, oh, it's just conversation. I can do anything I want. I can just do it. And then you're like, oh no, that's where the dice come in. The dice will stop you from doing whatever you want. So there's kind of, I can do anything, and then I can do nothing, and then you can play D&D.
Yeah. Well put. That's that is a very, I don't think too hard about that second step, but I think you're absolutely right that it is kind of learning what is it, the dynamic of it, about where your power extends within this process. It's cool.
Yeah, and learning to fail, which I guess we all have to do in life as well.
So one of the things that has been talked about a lot kind of recently in relation to Dungeons and Dragons is the idea of gatekeeping, of people who kind of know their way around this game and are a little bit protective of it and aren't so inviting to other people. And this, I think, is it's a reaction to the fact that the game is suddenly more visible than it's really ever been. You are someone who has come from zero to being very involved enough to put on something on stage, and obviously the Critical Role was your entry point. So you are exactly one of the people that might have been gate-kept against, not least because you're also a woman, which again has become there's a lot of sexism problems across gaming over its many decades of history. So have you encountered anything like that firsthand, or has it been smooth sailing for you? How's that been?
I would like
try not to put you on a spot here.
No. I mean, I guess it would be more interesting to say that I had experienced gatekeeping, but basically maybe it is something to do with Wellington or something to do with New Zealand. But in my experience, people who play D&D just want to play D&D, and they just want to have more people doing it with them, and they just want to show them how much fun those people can have. So all I have experienced in terms of interacting with people is joy and sharing and that kind of thing. Although maybe people were trying to gatekeep me and I just didn't notice and just barged through the gate with pure enthusiasm.
Yep.
So it's possible they were like, keep Harriet out, and I was like, hey guys, let's play D&D. But yeah, no, I think definitely in Wellington as well. I mean, just the goodwill and the kind of positive energy and excitement, but also some of that gatekeeping, I know people get annoyed about it, but it makes sense when you've had people who've been playing for so long and have been treated badly for playing for so long. I mean, it's not really like that as much now, but if you played for ages and people called you a loser, and then suddenly they're like, oh no, actually you're not a loser and I'm not a loser either, you're like, well, hang on, what was happening, so I don't mind if people are a little bit protective of something that they've looked after and loved for a long time, but having said that, that hasn't been my experience.
Well, I feel that's a very generous stance to take. As one of those people that has been playing for a very, very long time, I have a lot less patience with it. I think it's pretty inexcusable, really. It's as you say, it's a kind of wonderful thing to share. And Wellington does seem to have a lot of kind of very supportive people and supportive places who are. Is there something about Wellington that you think about the nature of the city that lends itself to this kind of thing? Because I have thought so.
Maybe it's just the weather,
nice.
They can't do outdoor activities because it's cold and horrible all the time. So D&D works really well, moody, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, for me, I just think once people get it and once people start doing it, they love it. In my experience, so I just want to get more people doing it. But in terms of gatekeeping, I've experienced definitely more in the gaming world of sort of video games. I find it difficult to talk to people about video games because they assume that, I don't know, that you're kind of pretending to like. I'm just weird because I think I can't be bothered pretending to like anything. And also Yeah, or that if you're not playing, they're like, oh yeah, what level did you play it at? And you're like, moderate, I don't know, medium. And they're like, oh, loser. You're like, I don't know. I never said that I was the best gamer in the world, so that's definitely experienced more gatekeeping in that kind of sense, but none yet with D&D.
Good. Well, let's hope that continues. So let's maybe talk a little bit more about the show. So you're a co-producer on the show. Were you the initiator of the idea? Did it come from you?
Yeah, I was. So I guess what I wanted to do was obviously with Diceratops, you guys have a lot of, it's definitely, you've got a lot of comedians and improvisers, and there's a lot of that kind of thing. It's which is awesome, but I am not a comedian. I'm not a stand-up comedian, so that was never going to be something that I was going to be able to do. So the idea was kind of doing more of a pure D&D show, that because the possibility is that it might not be funny if we have a kind of traumatic thing happen to one of our characters. It could be a dramatic show that is dramatic the whole time. And I guess the idea is more of us staying in character as much as we can that whole time. But yeah, so I was talking to Gavin Rutherford last year, and he was talking about the shows that were being pitched, and I was like, well, you should just pitch a D&D show. And he was like, well, maybe you should. And I was like, okay, I will. And then I did, and then they accepted it, and I was like, oh, okay.
You got trapped into it.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh, I have to do this now. Yeah, which was kind of scary. And then I've had to learn a lot of things along the way that I imagine you guys are pretty used to doing. But you're like, oh, I have to make a poster. How do you do that? Emails and poster people.
I still don't know how to do that.
Well, I didn't make the poster. Hadley Donaldson made our poster. I just want to put that out there. That wasn't me being like, oh. Yeah, no, he did a great job.
Yeah. And so you recruited a bunch of people to play and DM around you. Are they people that you knew through the game, or people that you knew through other circles who put their hands up? How did you get your people together?
Well, Alan and Ryan and Gabby, we already had a long-running campaign. So we'd been part of Waterdeep Dragon Heist.
Nice,
but we'd been playing that for like a year and a half. So I didn't have to try that hard to recruit the people that I was regularly playing D&D with. And then Gavin Rutherford he's just a brilliant performer and a brilliant actor. And he was someone who was slightly new to the game, but I thought he's going to be great if I can just convince him to do it. But he had such faith in the idea as well. So he came on board as a co-producer just because of his kind of expertise in putting on shows and that kind of stuff. And he's really, he's having the time of his life, which is a funny thing to see because, veteran actors can be grumpy by nature, but he's loving it. Even if he is playing a sorcerer, he should be a bard. He chose a sorcerer and we let him, but unlike you're a bard down to your core. Yeah. So it was nice to basically it was like people who already played D&D, who were already professional actors, who I already had a kind of rapport with. And that's what I wanted, because I guess I could have gone out and been like, oh, I will find different actors, or or have different criteria. But also as well, what's so important is that party dynamic. So I kind of didn't want to have to force that too much. I wanted there to be that kind of party dynamic already, which I think Critical Role did really well, because those people had already been playing with friends, and a lot of them are married to each other.
But they played for a long time, I think, before they turned cameras on themselves as well. So they had a very good rhythm.
Yeah, and they were playing Pathfinder, and I think they changed to 5e for the show. But
I'm really interested to see how the dynamic of your show plays out on stage. As you've pointed out, that you're coming with this collection of actors who have some quite astonishing kind of levels of experience amongst them. And so it'll be a different kind of show to our one, which has lots of kind of improv comedians, and the Fate of Ice and guys who have put on shows in Wellington. They are kind of heavily stand-up people. So
absolutely.
Dungeons and Comedians down south, that's again more improv-y, but that feels like a different crowd again to us. So it feels to me like every time people put Dungeons and Dragons in front of an audience, you get something different. Like the fundamental ingredients of the game are the same. There's dice and there's this interactive narrative that unfolds, but the output that you get is incredibly different. I look at the stuff. What is it? Waterdeep Mountain High that Nick Sampson and other comedians did. Again, that felt to me completely different to the other shows that have come out. So I've talked my way through this without coming to any kind of question, but I'm excited to see.
No, but I agree. But people are people say, oh, well, isn't there already that Diceratops one? And you're like, yeah. And then they're like, and there's Dungeons and Comedians, and you're like, yeah, but they're all. It's kind of like saying, isn't there already a play, or isn't there already, that kind of thing? You're like, yeah. But I mean, I honestly do think that the people coming to our show will have a completely different experience, and it's entirely possible that they'll come to ours and have a difficult dramatic experience because our DM is quite cruel, and then have to go away and then come to your show to have some of those laughs that they might be, missing from ours, just because, and it's a totally different feel again from the Dungeons and Comedians group, who I would love to see. I've been meaning to go down and see them. But I haven't managed to yet. But it's funny because the more there are, the more I want to see them, because as you say, each one has a different kind of flavor and a different kind of feel. Yeah. And I guess that's also depends on the storytelling vibe of each person.
So in the build up recently, you made a pretty amazing post on Facebook where you talked quite personally about kind of what this show had meant to you, and not to go over all the details of that. People can look that up. I recommend doing so. But you finished with, I'm going to read it out. I brought it up before. I have a fundamental belief in the power of improvised characters and collaborative storytelling, and most of all, human imagination to allow us to transcend the sometimes bleak trappings of human existence, which is an amazing thing to read. I completely agree and endorse it. I think to kind of bring together those differences that we were just talking about with different shows, to point at what you wrote there about the power of kind of collaborative storytelling to do something. Is there anything else that you can say about how the stories that you get through this process are different to the kinds of stories and experiences you get when a playwright sits down to create something, or a group of actors work to devise a work over many iterations into some final form? What happens? What's different about this kind of storytelling that makes it special?
I think it's just the delight of the surprise of it. I mean, in terms of writing something particular, you're kind of working away. It's like kind of shaving down a piece of marble until you get to the final ideal product. And even devising, you're kind of putting together like blocks, sort of working logically through. D&D destroys some of the ability to do that because of how often the dice will make you fail, the dice will make something change. You can't just sneak, because in a story you can say this person sneaks along and then they hide behind that person. In D&D, roll a one. No, you didn't. And I think the thing that I love most about it is it's always, 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 always better than the little plan that you had. And even if you have an idea and you go home and you're like, oh, it'd be so cool if my character does this, what happens is so much better and so much more interesting and so much stranger than you ever could have imagined. And it's so much more delightful. And I feel so much delight in the weird surprise that fate plays in this kind of genre, because no one else lets fate get involved in their narrative. They're like, get out, I need to have this in a certain way, and that's why it will work. Whereas D&D only works because there's chaos introduced into it, and it kind of mimics life in that way. You don't know what life is going to do, but it's kind of delightful and surprising.
Well, it feels to me like delight in the weirdness of chaos is a pretty amazing place to end this chat. That's really cool. So, lastly, I guess what are the details of the show for people who are in Wellington and able to see it? What do they need to know?
Yeah, cool. That is a really good question. It's it's 6 shows over 6 weeks. So it opens 26th of July and it closes the 30th of August. Although 4 of our shows are already sold out, so I guess get in quick. That just goes to show how many people love watching D&D. The tickets are 18 to 25, and it's at Circa Theatre. 4:30 on Sundays.
Cool. Are you going to be recording anything from your shows to let people who are in other places hear?
We're not at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
mainly just because putting on a show was hard enough for
Yeah.
the first time producer. I was like, we'll keep it small. And also just that idea that it'll be just the people who are in the room at the time will experience that adventure. But hopefully, I guess if we can, that would be a fun thing to explore. But it would be a nice to do, but I'm like, enough on my plate at some point. One thing at a time, baby
Fully
steps.
understand. So no, that will make it pretty special for the people who are in the room. So that's fantastic. Very good luck for these shows, and I look forward to seeing you happy at the other end of them, all excited to tell the stories.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Morgan.
All right, good stuff. Thanks, Harriet.
See ya.